First of all, your reaction to this?
Well, I think a great relief that this has finally happened. It had become quite untenable that the situation could go on as it was, day after day of headlines, distracting, as Andrew himself says in his statement, from the work that the royal family are doing. I'm struck by the use of the pronoun we. The king, my immediate family and wider family, we have concluded that the continued accusations against me distract from the work of His Majesty, and he uses we against later. This is a clear indication that extreme pressure has been put on Prince Andrew to do, if you like, the decent thing, to fall on his sword. I think if he hadn't fallen on his sword, he would have been pushed very firmly onto it. He could not go on all these headlines, which are indeed distracting from the work of the family. And I think there have been some very pointed words, obviously, between Charles and I think William very much in the background, putting the pressure on Andrew to do what most of us would see as the decent thing. I'm also struck by the fact he says, I will give up my title. I won't use my title. He's not actually giving it up. He's not going to use his title, by which he must refer to the dukedom, I suppose, which was conferred on him by his mother in 1986 when he married Sarah Ferguson, who will no longer be a duchess. I mean, he's also Baron Killyleagh and the Earl of Inverness, and I've no doubt that he won't be using those either. So I think it is what we, the public, really wanted to see happen. And I think there'd be relief at the palace that this has finally taken place.
Jennie, Prince Andrew has obviously been a problematic figure for the royal family for a long time. He stood back from public life 5 years ago. What would you say, if you think there was one, was the tipping point that has led us here?
Yeah, you say he stood back 5 years ago. He makes reference to that in his statement, that I stand by my decision to stand back from public duties. Well, that was not his decision. That was his late mother's decision, who reluctantly, albeit reluctantly, she sacked her son because of his disastrous Newsnight interview. And I think that from now on, I don't know what role he's going to have. Well, he'll have no role in public life. Whether we will see him privately, I really, really don't know. I think the tipping point has been this culmination of headline after headline, and today photographs of him with a man associated with the possible Chinese spy scandal. That really, I think, has been the last straw. But day after day, in fact, year after year, you could even say decade after decade, these rumours have swirled around Andrew. I reported back in 2001 on the rumours about his friendship with the, now we know, convicted paedophile, the late Jeffrey Epstein. And it has just been drip, drip, drip of scandal after scandal. And when we discovered a few days ago that he had actually lied in his Newsnight interview, that he had not broken off his association with Jeffrey Epstein. And we now know that Sarah Ferguson also lied. She said she'd had no further contact and then wrote him a gushing letter. You cannot have two members of the royal family in any kind of public arena who are mendacious.
And Jennie, do you think that this will be enough now for the public to stop the continued distractions from the work of the royal family?
Well, it depends whether he pops his head above the parapet, even at private family occasions. And if he does go, and you can't really stop a man going to, for example, a funeral of a relative, something like that, he needs not to stand at the front, as he did with the Duchess of Kent's funeral, the pictures there we're seeing. He needs not to sidle up to his nephew, William, and try and make what appear to be jovial comments. He needs to have a low profile, a very, very low profile. And that might be enough. I mean, he has been humiliated 5 years ago by being sacked by his mother. He's now been further humiliated by being persuaded, shall we say, by his brother to give up his title. I don't know what happens next. I don't know how an ex-duke conducts himself. I think it would be rather odd if he and Sarah Ferguson, that's who she is now, continue to live in this huge mansion, royal lodge, that the king has been trying to dislodge him from for some time. That could be a further development. We shall have to wait and see.
And Jenny, what's been the impact of all of this on the royal family itself?
Well, I think absolute despair, really. Time and again, they are out and about all over the place, trying to do what the royal family do, bring attention to causes and campaigns, to issues and the people they visit. And it's all getting overshadowed by these lurid headlines day after day of Andrews. I think that they are royally peed off by it all, quite frankly. And I think now they just want to draw a line under this and get on with what they are really quite good at doing.
And Jenny, as you were mentioning, it's a culmination of factors that have led us here. So the continued links to Jeffrey Epstein, also to the Chinese spy scandal. But also we do have a new monarch. So how crucial do you think it is that it was King Charles that was obviously involved in this decision?
Well, as I say, his mother took a very big decision when she sacked him from his role. That's when he stepped back from all royal duties and stopped using his HRH. And I think probably his older brother, Charles, to whom he's not particularly close, hoped that that might be sufficient. But it became quite inexcusable and untenable, the number of headlines that were coming out. And so obviously he had to do the deed, though I think there was a lot of pressure coming from William as well, who hasn't got those brotherly ties to Andrew, and I think perhaps was slightly more ruthless in his attitude to what had to be done to protect the monarchy.
And Jenny, what do you make of the impact that this will have on his closest relatives? So, well, his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, but especially his daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie.
Well, Sarah and Andrew are very much in this together. And whatever else you say about it, they have made a tremendous success of being a divorced couple and bringing up two very lovely young women. My heart goes out to Beatrice and Eugenie, really. It must be heartbreaking for them to see their parents humiliated publicly in this way again, because their young lives have been punctuated by scandals brought about by either Sarah or Andrew. But through thick and thin, they have stood by their parents, and I've no doubt they will do so again. But it must be deeply distressing for them. And as I say, whatever you say about that couple, they have remained close as a family, and I'm sure they will hunker down now and comfort one another.
Okay. And just, I mean, we found out, or at least it was announced, what, about half an hour ago? How surprising was the statement to you?
Well, I think I, along with other columnists, have been writing in newspapers this week that something had to happen. I mean, one particularly untenable part of his role was that he remained, and I assume he will no longer remain, a councillor of state. I think actually that does need clarifying. Councillors of state are a very small number of senior members of the royal family who can deputise for the monarch if needs be. And although Charles has taken steps to slightly increase that number, thus reducing the likelihood of Andrew ever being called to do so, I think that is quite an untenable situation now. So I don't know if he will be actually removed as Councillor of State. But beyond that, we shall have to wait and see what happens with an ex-duke.
Jennie Bond, former royal correspondent. Jennie, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Thank you.